Hi, I'm going to introduce the fourth artist, Shurentsetseg Sukhbat, and to talk about her art, actually, just to preface a couple of things, because many artists from countries, for example, such as Mongolia, they really, in terms of stereotyping, they really struggle with it, and I struggled with it, and I still struggle with it, because the ideas of Mongolia and Mongolians, and based on the histories, and based on the abstract assumptions of people, and lots of biases as well, can really play into how the artist can be understood, actually, how the art can be understood. And that's one thing that I find it definitely challenging. Also, it's a challenge for, I would say, it's quite a big challenge for Mongolian artists, So there are a number of ways to tackle this challenge, and of course, there's a way to challenge it in a way that, every person is an individual. And there are 3.6 million Mongolians, and then there are many other Mongolians like living outside Mongolia, diaspora Mongolians. So everyone, despite coming from one place, and they can have a very many different type of diverse and multi-layered identities, they resonate and they identify with, right? So I think to put any culture or any country or any background to one box is it really narrows our views of a person, and it makes the individual qualities, really discounts the individual qualities. And that's why I think about Shurentsetseg's paintings, for example, because like when you look at her paintings, it does not look, they do not look, for example, as a paintings by a Mongolian artist. It's not instantly recognizable as that. And I like that quality, actually, because it's very difficult to detach from a stereotype which is very heavy and very, I would say, burdensome sometimes, to deal with, thousands of years of histories, and also we have an enormous rich culture of symbolism and images that we have to kind of deal with it, and then which images and which symbols we need to use and we should not use. And every image and every symbol has a very deep, cultural, historical meaning. But at the same time, for Shurentsetseg, it was a decision early on that she decided that she will be just herself, And of course, this doesn't make her not Mongolian or anything, but it kind of makes her an individual before that. And of course, she also has a very interesting upbringing. I mean, she was born and raised in the countryside, and really in the countryside where the city life doesn't exist in any way or form, and that's in the early 90s, and she kind of stayed away from the turbulences and changes that happened in the capital, in the other major cities in Mongolia, where things were more kind of, in transition rather than in very, in the far regions, in Mongolia. So in that respect, she has a very deep understanding of the countryside life, the nomadic life. And she spoke about the purity, and also the peace she felt when she was a child, when she was living in the countryside with her family. And then that's a memory that she keeps it with herself even now. And now she's living between Mongolia and Korea, and I think that's also an interesting, way of living, whilst she has that, memory capsule with her from her, early years. And then when you look at the paintings, I also think that the paintings that usually, and not always, but usually in most cases, kind of have a nature. You know, it's in the figures, the women are usually in nature, is in a space of some kind of nature, but the space is not actually, for example, recognizable like the Mongolian landscape or German landscape or British landscape or anything like that. But it's a kind of space, but it has trees, it has mountains, it has other features of nature. But at the same time, it's kind of these dream-like places. It's something that she created, and whether it is from the memory capsule she actually, retained from her childhood, or whether it is abstract in her, in her imagination. I mean, it could be both. But at the same time, what she is and who she is and where she is now, it's a kind of expression of very internal, intimate processes that it can be only fully understood by her, of course. But at the same time, if you look at the paintings, that I do feel number of very strong feelings towards the paintings. And I do feel the slight unease, and there is that slight anxiety, but also very nice peace within that. Because at the same time, she's kind of looking for peace, but at the same time, life is full of challenges that we cannot control, and within this. Challenges that we sometimes have no idea when they're gonna come, how they're gonna come, what will be the scale, and they can be difficult, to deal with. But she is kind of using the painting practice to actually really deal with those challenges, not kind of fighting with those challenges, but kind of in a very slow, methodical. Kind of understated way, but that's the way she wants to do it, so there's no right or wrong way in that respect. So to make this video, I really wanted to do it outside in the nature, and it was raining quite a lot actually in the last few days, and I've done quite a few versions of this video now, and this is also to connect personally for me as well. I was born and grew up in the city, so it's only in the last 4 or 5 years that I'm living next to nature actually, and this is quite new to me, and also I starting to understand fully, I would say, the power and also the effect what the nature gives us, really, and also what the nature doesn't give us, and nature doesn't really, in a sense, care about us, right? So because when we're in the nature, the trees are a couple of 100 years old, and this land possibly existed however long it existed, in Germany, for example. And I do feel, I do feel humbled, that, I'm not this very important, figure or personal, a being in this nature. I'm just, one of billions and billions, of people who existed on this earth. And it humbles you. It also keeps you grounded. And I feel that the grounding is important. In my life especially, so that I feel when I feel, for example, somehow special, and I tell to myself that maybe not that, maybe there are ways I can keep myself grounded and, keep myself just, be grateful to what I have, and, and that's the approach I have in my life. And connecting to Shurentsetseg's paintings is that if you look at her paintings, most of the paintings are shows women posing in all kind of different ways, but they're always usually grounded in nature, and in a kind of paused state. And I find it really interesting that the nature is important, the grounding is important for those women, that they are, when I say women, they visibly women, and they also they do not look like, for example, stereotypical Mongolian women. It could be any woman from any nature, any culture or background or country, and then they usually very strong and very built as well. And then that also shows that the strength of a being and of a female is something that akin to nature. So this is how I understood paintings, and I also worked on her solo exhibitions as a curator back in 2023, and now she's kind of moving into more kind of dream sequences. It's a direct result of her, relocation to South Korea, and she's living between South Korea and Mongolia. So it's an interesting period of time for her, and I wish her best. And this is the short discussion I want to share with you all. Thank you.